So this is going to take, you think that it's going to be sort of a light presentation because I mentioned Barbie, but it's not. I don't know if anybody noticed, Barbie was all over this summer, and there were articles written about in The Economist and other very prestigious publications about the impact of the economy that Barbie had. Why? Because when you give women things that they need and they want, they are your best customers. So I'm going to start with the thing where I say I'm also not a scientist. I actually started my career in luxury fashion, and I spent most of my initial part of my career selling things to people that they don't need. When I sold my company, I decided, well, what can I do that actually makes an impact? What if I can use what I know how to do to sell something that people do need? And what we need is women need better health outcomes. Our movement is focused on being the decentralized leading community and platform enabling translational women's health research, education, and funding. So we have a huge problem. Women make half of the world's population. However, I want you to look at this slide because this is the NIH budget in 2022. Women's health only took 11% of their total funding. All of women's health across the board is massively underfunded. Even fertility, which when you hear IVH clinics and you hear of startups in the fertility space, took less than 1% of the total funding in women's health research. Something doesn't make sense in the math. This is a meme that has been going around on our social media, and we use it a lot in presentations, and it comes from a really good friend, Healthspan Capital, Nathan Chang. He invited me to do a presentation for one of his groups, and this slide shocked me because in even longevity research, longevity startup funding, reproductive health is second last and just after pets. So yay, my dog, bad for women. Potentially my dog is going to live longer than my ovaries. And this is a massive problem. You know why? Because we're leaving a lot of capital on the floor. If you're not driven by the mission to make women's lives better, and what you're interested in is in economic output, $600 billion, the menopause market is projected to be valued at. And you saw how little money we spend in women's health research for fertility, which actually has to do with reproductive aging. You also saw it in the longevity on the venture capital funding. We are living a massive economic opportunity on the floor. So this is where the DAO ecosystem comes into play and why it's so powerful. Because you don't have to be a scientist, you don't have to be a researcher, you can be a patient, you can be a woman, you don't even have to be a woman, you can be a man, you can be a funder. The DAO allows people who are motivated by a mission to come together for overlooked areas. And there's nothing more overlooked than women's health. Of course I'm going to say that, but truly, look at the data, I'm not lying. So where are we starting first? We're doing women's health research, but you cannot say you're going to do all of women's health. It's too many things. So we looked at the data, and we looked at the areas that are most underfunded. I'm personally also obsessed with menopause, but ovarian aging, menopause is massively underfunded. It's a massive market opportunity because not all women are going to have children, but pretty much all women are going to have menopause. Endometriosis and uterine fibers, 10% of the world's female population has endometriosis. And we don't have ways to diagnose it, to treat it. It's insane. And this is the year 2023, where we've achieved a level of AI that is insane, and yet we don't know how to actually figure out if a woman has endometriosis. So I'm going to give you some about how far we've come, but we're also very happy that we already funded our first IPNFT. This was a long process that started about a year. It's been a year since Athena DAO was formed. And we had our actual ceremony about 3 weeks ago. We started with ovarian aging because a lot of us are alumni from actually Vita DAO and are passionate about the space. And when you look at the different IPNFTs that we have coming up and the kind of work that the researchers are doing, we're really, even though it's not a lot of money, science is very expensive. We've worked in a very cohesive way to try to make sure that we increase our odds of having the dream that I think when Molecule was started is a DAO that can bring a scientific project from research up to a therapeutic. This is going to be our second IP NFT with Dr. Joshua Johnson. And I want to point out something, that the power of decentralization means that you can also be working with research institutes around the world. All three IP NFTs touch 3 continents. One is in Europe, another one is in the US, and another one is in Asia. And that is a very powerful format that you cannot achieve if you're doing just a research institute in the US or in Europe. It's truly global, and I think that's one of the most powerful tools when you're talking about decentralized science. One project that's very close to our heart is the last IP NFT, which is going to be with Lu Dong. She is only a PhD candidate. She's a woman. The thing that is very close to our hearts is that for us, this feels like we can accelerate science. Why? Because as most scientists or researchers know here, science is very hierarchical. And the people that get the funding are always at the top of the pyramid. And it's usually the same names. So the fact that we can actually find a researcher so early in her career, it's, I mean, we hope, we don't know if it's going to have the outcome that we want, but the fact that we can do that, we think it's so important. And this is an opportunity that DAOs provide. As I said, we started with the least funded areas of research, but we're going to move into devices, oncology, autoimmune diseases. When it comes to women's health, things are varied. So you have to do it strategically, but who knows? One day, maybe we can actually be one of the groups having an open source artificial womb. I think one of the things that you hear also about decentralized science is monopolies. And the fact that some of these technologies are very expensive because there's initial investors that put all the capital. And there's plenty of articles, if you look it up right now, that talk about how fertility treatments are very expensive and some women are being priced out of the market. And this is not just or right. Everybody should have the right and the access to have these technologies available to them. And with open science and these new mechanisms, we could potentially even out the quote-unquote game. So just to give you some of our metrics so far, as I said, we already had our first IP NFT. We did our first call for submissions, and we just finished our second call. The first call for submissions had 50 submissions. It was a proof of concept for us, the fact that we had Harvard and Cambridge, such respected institutes, apply for funding. It meant to us that this is badly needed. From that, we got to 6 very high caliber projects and senior reviews that came out of that are the DAO. And 3 of those are IP NFTs. I just want to say that this is a very meticulous process of evaluating projects from within the DAO, taking them out of the DAO, speaking to R&D experts, and then getting to the point where you have an IP NFT. We have 35 active contributors, and by active contributors, it's about people that spend 5 to 10 hours a week doing something for the DAO, whether you're doing a post or evaluating science or spending time with us doing some of our kind of streamlining or digital tools. It requires a village to do this work. And that is the most powerful thing, too, is that these people are driven by the mission. We count with across all channels 5,000 members. We believe that we're actually the second biggest BioDAO after VitaDAO. And we spend a lot of time fostering those relationships and really trying to impart the word of decentralized science to the general public speaker and, more importantly, to women. And that is connected to the next metric, which is we've done a lot of work going to conferences, academic conferences. Anywhere where we get a chance to speak, we will go there. Why? Because it's so important that people realize this is really important, not just for women, but for society in general. And James had asked me to make this announcement. Our biggest moment was this week. We actually had our token launch, so we're officially a DAO. Thank you. Thank you so much. I know that we have a lot of our token holders here, and we're so grateful because we actually met our threshold and went over our threshold, and we're so proud because we did this in the bear market. So thank you so much for being part of this. We're so excited. There's going to be a lot of happening the next month, and from now on, it's even more work, but we love that we're here. And I had a presentation at midnight last night with a group in the US, and I told them that no matter what anybody says, at this point, we've raised over $500,000 for women's health from the Web3 community, and I think that is very powerful, because before that, that hadn't happened. With that said, my presentation is about how to Barbie DeSci. I want to point out a figure that it's very crucial for us, which is we're extremely proud that of the 110 bids pledged, 87 were ticket sizes under $1,000. That shows that our community was interested in participating in this, that they were ready to put their hard-earned cash into this, and that to us is very powerful. Of course, we love our bidders that put a significant amount of money, but this shows that there's interest and that women themselves are ready to do this, regardless of if they're investors or they're just community members. I also want to point out that we exceeded expectations because I was told on the DL that the platform wasn't prepared to handle over 100 bids or even at that number. So yay to us. So that's when I say welcome to the girl economy. And this is a term that you can look up on Twitter or on Google, where it's basically the articles that I mentioned from The Economist says that pretty much this summer was saved by Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and the Barbie movie. Women came out en masse to do the things that they like. I mean, I didn't watch the Barbie movie yet, to be honest. I'm more of an Oppenheimer person. But it just shows the capital power of women. And I know that women are powerful because they make the luxury industry, they make the beauty industry, and they even make the healthcare industry. 80% of healthcare decisions are made by women at home. So the fact that we're not catering to them, it's mental. With that said, how do we get so many women to be involved in what we're doing, or so many of our community members? We're dealing with a particular paradigm where most of you that are in Web3 or researchers, you see it. It's mostly men in all of these spaces. Women make a small majority of the tech ecosystem. No, they don't make a majority. They make small numbers in these ecosystems. We spend a lot of time in education models, info sessions, office hours, in-person community events, the memes, everything that we could try to touch, we did touch. For us, what we believe is that we are onboarding the new wave of Web3 uses. And this is very important because if we want to make sure that decentralized science grows, we're going to have to go outside of the regular suspects or the people that we think are ideal newcomers. Women were not necessarily driven to Web3 by the NFTs or the casino that it became for a bit there. But a lot of them, we onboarded a lot of scientists that have never even heard about Web3 was. Why? Because of the mission. And our mission is very powerful because all women know how hard it is to have their health needs met. We also partner with a lot of women in Web3. We have a lot of great support for some of the biggest ecosystem players like She-Fi, Boys Club that everybody knows. They're the cool kids in town, BFF. We work very hard to collaborate with those communities because, as Tyler said, everything is about collaboration. And for us, it meant the world that leading up to our token launch, they actually published us in their newsletters, in their communities that they had grown during the bull markets. As I said, working in the bear market has its particular, you have to be very focused to make sure you get all the right people in at the right time. There was a lot of back work that we did. We have 2 public goods out there. One is the reproductive health, 2 reproductive health reports that were made possible also by another Web3 tool, the Gitcoin grants. So we're really pushing the narrative that Web3 crypto is not just about a casino and a bunch of dudes wanting to make money. There are very powerful tools here that could make a difference for overlooked people or communities. And as I always go back to, we've tried to capitalize from everything that is available to us to push our mission forward, which is advancing women's health research. For those who are curious about our premise or what we're working hard to do and how we're doing it and how our planning is going to go, we did publish just ahead of our token launch our white paper. It's quite a long, comprehensive paper talking about the issues in women's health, how we're approaching it, the decisions we made, and what we're going to work in the next little while. So one of the important things is to be as transparent and as open, and we're always available to anybody who has questions. And that's the other part that is very powerful, because when we were starting this, I was told, why don't you do a fund? Why don't you do a foundation? Why does it have to be in Web3? Because I know foundations, no disrespect to my American friends, a lot of foundations in the US raise a lot of money and very little of it goes to science. And in Web3, you can see the contracts, you can see the wallets, you can see where the money is moving, which I find very fascinating because it really shows when you're making the impact. And you're gonna show that I'm not paying myself like $100,000 to run Athena DAO, which I think is also crucial when you think of the context of when you do this. You wanna do this for getting something ahead, not necessarily because of your own personal interests. And I think that's the other thing that is very powerful about Web3, that people, when they do this, they know that they're advancing something beyond themselves. And I mean, we talk a lot about personal brand, but the most powerful people that do have a personal brand is because they're doing something that goes beyond them. And that's one of the things that we always try to push, that everybody in the DAO, they have their own story to tell, and they're here for a different reason, whether you're a scientist, whether you're a woman that has PCOS, or whether you're just a man that has seen his wife suffer. You don't, what brings people to the mission is different, but the thing is always getting science funded and making sure that we get somewhere into that category to make more people come back to Web3, more of the community aspect to grow, and more contributors come into the ecosystem. This takes me to, as I say, it takes a village to do this. I come with an amazing team. Already the core team is incredible. You're gonna meet them here today. The Athenas, and as Stefano is called, Atheno. We have a range from experts in innovation, Ines, who's done a lot of work in onboarding women into the technology ecosystem in Europe, Maria and Stefano, who are scientists themselves and understand all the pain points, from Stefano being himself a funded scientist in academia, to Maria having at the lab in venture capital, and also now a full-time person in the DAO ecosystem. The other part, Erin is also here too, didn't have time to make the presentation and adjust, but our contributors are core to us growing. And the thing that's incredible about DAOs is the fact that you can take the expertise from various people at different times. They don't have to be your full-time, quote-unquote, employees or consultants. They come in, one email, one chat makes a big difference in advancing anything that you want to push forward in the DAO. And you can with some of the most powerful brains in not the ecosystem, but in their own expertise. One of the things that we have to start thinking is not just the social capital, but the intellectual capital that brings the networks that are happening in this ecosystem. It's just pointing out some of supporters in the space in between academia and Web3, and now obviously I have to update this slide with all the groups in Web3, as I mentioned, all the She-Fis, the Boys Club, all these people that we're planning a lot of collaborations with to continue to onboard more women into the decentralized science ecosystem. With that said, I know that in biotech, a lot of people talk about Bell Labs being the Bell Labs of this or the Bell Labs of that. And for us to make it, well, I don't know if OpenAI is of the moment anymore. This was like 6 months ago. But we say that we want to be the OpenAI for women's health. We're literally at the beginning of a very long journey. And I cannot say that we're going to be the best at generating IP or that we're going to be the best at having the most robust clinical data. We're going to be the best at something, and it's going to take a bit of time. But the opportunities are women's health is such an open book that the fact that we're working in so many of these different categories simultaneously, but people that are driven by a mission, is going to get us, I think, very far as potentially being the first women's health pharma company that doesn't exist. So with that said, if you are curious about what the world will look like with better and more women's health research, you can join us. It's very early days, even though we've been around for a year now. Now that we launched our token, we're going to be doing so much more, and we're always looking for contributors, new people to join our mission. And thank you so much again to DeSci.Berlin, to all our friends and family in DeSci. A lot of you are here. We couldn't have done this without you, and we can't wait to see what, as Ines says, what the next decade is going to bring. Thank you.